different than the room I was in, renewable energy and energy storage. There's in this room who likely have knowledge about energy and what you want to see or what you're knowledgeable about with energy. There's reasons, Maya, if you want to advance the slide. Many reasons thinking about energy, right? You think about greenhouse gas, obviously. You think about air pollution. There's also
Jen.
What's that?
Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if anybody else is hearing it, but you're going a little bit in and out. If you
Okay.
could get close to a mic, I think that would be
close
helpful.
to the mic.
Yes,
I should
please.
probably put a headset on, right? All right, I'll get closer to my computer. There's the economic reasons for energy efficiency as well. So, slide, Maya. Others should mute. Yeah. So if others could mute, that might help until you can speak. You can also, once we get going, make sure to use the chat room. But we will be taking notes as you speak as well. I'll try to keep track of if you raise your hand and things like that. This is just a snapshot of where the county is and efforts in the county to date. So some of you may be aware of where the county is, but there's different things that the county has been doing along these lines of energy efficiency. There's contracting and procurement. There are energy efficiency goals, grant programs, energy coaches. And I just want to share in the last room I was in, some of the people in the room just didn't even know about the different programs that were going on. So a good portion was spent on how are these things, and that's part of what we're doing here tonight. How are the things that the county's doing communicated to the community? And Maya, I don't know if you have anything to add, or Commissioner Ellis, if you have anything to add for the snapshots of the efforts in the county.
No, I think this snapshot provides a great resource for those to see what opportunities exist in the county. There's a lot of great energy efficiency programs that the county is offering to do deep energy retrofits to install solar on customers' property, along with the company that I'm working for in Pepco. We partner with the county to provide a lot of energy efficiency programs to help customers save money as well as reduce their carbon footprint. As I always state, the cheapest kilowatt is the one that's never used. Energy efficiency is the cheapest, cost resource. Instead of just building more solar, we need to first make sure that our buildings and our homes are as efficient as possible so we're not wasting energy. And so I know everyone on this call is just as passionate about energy efficiency as I am. So I think we're great, and I love the examples here.
Great. Maya, if you could advance the next slide. So as that last slide showed, changes happening in Maryland, and there is progress. Maryland is a very progressive state, and also the county is very progressive. I personally, I'm in Delaware, and we always look to Maryland to what's Maryland doing? Like, how's Maryland handling things? So this gives an example of the change, but what we really want to get to, and again, I don't want to read the slides. I'd like the opportunity for you in this group we want to get to the idea of, are you aware of what's going on? What have you seen in your community? How are things being communicated, or what are some gaps that you would be interested in communicating to this group? So Maya, if you want to go to the next slide. Energy efficiency action recommendations from the plan that we're discussing tonight. So establish the benchmarking requirements and standards across the county. So again, this is about what's happening on public space versus private space. How do we understand, like, this is a county plan, and of course the public buildings and public spaces have different opportunities, but then there's other programs and things that should be communicated to the community. So we want to accelerate the number of homes and businesses implementing energy retrofits. There's financing solutions, and then there's assistance to different types of community members. So Maya, if you want to advance the next slide. My first question is, with the people in this room, what do you think about the energy efficiency program? Are you aware of what you can take part in? Are you aware of the programs to retrofit homes and gain energy efficiency? I see Ann Riley shaking her head. Nope. Okay,
Nope.
tell us about it.
Well, I remember when I used to have a house, there were places where you could go to Home Depot and so forth, and you got chits or some sort of coupons to reduce and buying certain better light bulbs and that sort of thing. I'm not in contact with that now, being at Riderwood in a apartment situation.
Okay, so you're in an apartment, and the apartment complex, you don't have any knowledge of how you can participate in energy efficiency for your apartment.
Well, I'm in a retirement community, and we do try to get each other to do better in a variety of ways, but I'm not aware of what's available in the county anymore for people who need to improve on their insulation and, you know, what kind of solar help is out there and so forth. When I was in Delaware, I got free solar from Solar City, and I didn't have to pay a cent.
Wow. Okay, Maya, you can advance the next slide, because we're getting into, so that was just sort of starting to think. And Maya, what I hear you're saying is, what would this energy efficiency program look like? So if maybe there are things happening in your retirement community and you don't know, or there might not be things happening in your retirement community, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what does the energy efficiency look like for different types of housing units, from apartments to retirement communities? What are options for people who don't? Maureen, yes?
Well, for example, I live in Bowie, and but this was before the pandemic. On a yearly basis, the city offers a program where they offer like $20,000 of energy upgrades to your home if you're a senior and you fall within a certain income. And so this was in the newspaper, and that is how one would find out about it. I'm sure now, you know, I guess I was going to say they could do online. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is there a county program that is similar to that? Because I know the Bowie program was from a grant, and I'm not sure where the grant came from, whether it's available throughout the county, but all I know is it was a tremendous boon to my existence. I mean, I got a new furnace, I got hot water heater, I got a new dishwasher, I got new roof insulation and attic insulation and more. So I think programs like that are excellent. But when you say, I'm not sure, does that fit under this question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. I think the Bowie program is pretty unique in Maryland, at least, and there are definitely low-income programs that generally fixed-income households can take advantage of, but not necessarily senior programs that you know, are targeted to the senior population. So I think that was something that's pretty unique to Bowie, and you know, I heard was a very successful program. So it's great to hear from somebody who took advantage of that program.
Yes. And also having community solar would also be very helpful. I get my energy from neighborhood sun, and I think that the county could encourage that also, community solar.
I was gonna say, I see a lot of hands up, and I just want to say, Maureen, that was what we touched on in the last, and it was about educating people on community solar and co-ops. But I think Jamie, Steve, I saw a couple hands up. So Jamie, you've had your hand up, I think, and David.
Okay. Good evening, all.
Hello, Jamie.
Hey, good evening. Hello. And congratulations to the person that just spoke. I do know of some opportunities that exist within Prince George's County with the Office of Sustainable Energy over at Prince George's County. I know that they have been really good about partnering with residents, and I don't have their phone number right off. The Office of Sustainable Energy under Prince George's County government may be a resource for persons that may be looking for programs that could assist. I do know that on our utility bills with both PEPCO and BGE, typically they will have information and numbers that you can dial if you'd like to have a home assessment. Many times, some of those home assessments used to be free. Sometimes there's a nominal cost, but when they come in, they will do a full assessment of your home to determine its level of energy efficiency. They will offer you free LED light bulbs and just give you a comprehensive report and tell you everything that could be improved, such as if you're losing energy by your door. I think one of the photos that led into tonight, you can see one of the contraptions that they put on your door that can identify whether you're losing air, and so forth. I also, working with the county, with the schools, we do participate with the utility rebate incentive programs where we're able to retrofit lighting. We have some summer projects that are in progress, as well as we also take advantage of the energy efficiency programs for HVAC replacement, as well as hot water, heat, gas fired equipment, as well as electrical equipment in the kitchen and elsewhere.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities. And Jamie, you work, how do you tap into all of?
Sure. I work with the county in the school system in
Wonderful.
the supporting services, building services. I work with utilities and energy management.
Great.
All of our
Wonderful.
And Jamie was doing a lot of the energy literacy programs that we had talked about in the outreach group. She was part of running those programs with students. So she's a great advocate in the county.
Oh, great. Yes, thank you. So Steve and David, I don't know which one, I saw the hands.
I'll go first. How about that, Dave?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Many thousands of residents who live in multifamily housing in Prince George's County are dramatically underserved by these programs because they don't do any improvements to their homes. They depend on the owner of the development or sometimes the HOA to get involved, and it's a much steeper climb and heavier lift to get HOAs and owners of rental properties to make these kind of improvements because it doesn't pay for them. If they have old furnaces or old boilers and it costs more money for oil, they raise the rent. And it would be great if somehow Prince George's County could figure out how to legislate and require energy efficiency improvements in multifamily housing. And I'm not sure how to bring that about. I'm not a politician, but those of us who live in single family, or I actually live in one of the co-op houses in Greenbelt, we pay our own PEPCO bills, and so of course we're interested in energy efficiency. But folks in Riderwood and lots of other places in the county, including here in Greenbelt, don't, and that's a huge problem. And I'm not sure what the solution is. Maybe Dave has a solution.
Well, I have 3 points I'd like to make and start off with what Steve has been saying. My daughter's getting ready to buy a house in that'll be part of an HOA, and the discussion will probably be coming up about what can she do up in her attic. Her attic is seriously under insulated. It's not air sealed, and I don't know if the HOA would be willing to let her upgrade her insulation, but it seems like that's kind of beyond her house because it's up in her attic. And so I think there's really some big issues that may be coming up about what do you do in multifamily housing. I also want to mention about the PEPCO programs. I think those PEPCO programs are good, but I think most people I don't even think know about the PEPCO programs, and I think there's a real need to get the word out to people that they're available, and possibly if the word gets out, we may need to figure out ways of funding them better because you probably need more money to run the program if you get more participation. The third thing I want to mention is I live in University Park, and we had got a grant from DOE a few years ago. It was called the Step Up Program, and we ended up doing 25% of the houses were audited and 15% got retrofits to put air sealing and insulation and some other things. But one of the things that made that program work the best was the fact that we had an energy coach. Getting just an energy audit really isn't adequate or sufficient. A lot of people don't really know what to do with that information. Having someone there, or maybe multiple people in the county, helping people through the process and understanding just what that energy audit means really can make a difference. Thank you.
That's great. Well, and so we're still on the slide, and I messaged Maya. I said we're kind of getting into the next slide is challenges and opportunities, and you went right into what are the challenges and opportunities, and I want to make sure that we capture and kind of synthesize and encourage the participation of Maurice and John, and how do we summarize the challenges and opportunities for what you see as energy efficiency? What are the challenges and opportunities that you just heard? And thank you, Maya, for kind of populating it. Energy coaches, maybe there's not an awareness of the energy coaches. I think that would be Maurice. And okay, David, if you want to talk again, but Maurice, I want to see like what your thoughts are about, do you have energy efficiency? John, have you participated in these energy efficiency programs?
This is John. Oh, sorry.
Either.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I participated in the program, and right now I'm trying to enroll my mom, who's a senior, to make sure that her home is energy efficient, and having a look at insulation and light bulbs and things like that. So we actually started on the light bulbs, so making sure that they were all switched out. So next is just looking at the insulation and the AC unit to make sure that it's efficient, because it's probably end of life and needs a better SEER rating or something like that.
Okay, great. And John?
I've participated both in PEPCO's energy audit and taken advantage of quite a few energy rebates from PEPCO. Last time I looked at these, I was a little disappointed that the rebates for the heat pumps had gone away, because we're finally starting to see heat pumps be implemented by a lot of different people here in Greenbelt, and I think that needs to continue. I'd like to see some innovative technologies as well. There are now heat pump water heaters that use CO2, carbon dioxide, as the refrigerant. I think we need to start doing pilot programs on those and get them more, if the technology is mature enough, start seeing rebates for those. because that would help with CO gas, greenhouse gas emissions, because CO2 is much more benign than what they're using now for refrigerants.
Right. That's a whole other breakout room with the R12 or whatever the climate bombs that are in the old refrigerants. Yes. I just asked the Commissioner Ellis, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but in the chat, R22, yeah. In the chat, the split incentive program for multifamily. So that seems to be, if we can put in challenger opportunities, and also that fits into the next slide of equity, burdens, who's left out. If we're hearing, we started with Ann talking about, well, there's retirement communities, there's multifamily. If you could talk more about the incentives for the owners of those properties, Commissioner Ellis, that might be helpful.
Sure. Just really quickly, I think all the community members who have spoke, especially those from Greenbelt, and as well as Ms. Jamie, are very knowledgeable about the programs at PEPCO and very knowledgeable about energy efficiency in general. So they're right on the point when it comes to some of the challenges and opportunities that we need to solve in the county. Specifically for the multifamily, we know that has historically been a sector that has been hard to reach, and due to the split incentive, right, where the owners of the multifamily building, they are reluctant to make improvements because they don't pay the bill. And the tenants, they're also reluctant to make improvements because they're only going to be there temporarily. Typically, most people move out of an apartment or multifamily building within 2 years. And so you have that disconnection of who actually is going to make the improvements. And so one of the things that we did, we have our quick home energy checkup program at PEPCO, which as many folks have taken a part on this call, where we go in and we install free LEDs or faucet aerators or shower heads or smart thermostats inside the unit so that the unit owner doesn't have to pay. But that doesn't serve the fact that the owner of the property building has to make deep energy retrofits in terms of insulation, windows, roof, and that sort of thing. So how do we get the owner, motivate them to actually make improvements? And one of the ways I've seen folks do so across the country is by benchmarking. And so if owners of those apartment buildings and multifamily units now have to submit their energy usage information publicly, they're now are being compared to their peers. And it's also now the selling point. If, say, a multifamily unit has the highest energy score in the county, do you want to rent there, or do you want to rent from someone that hasn't done those improvements? So benchmarking sometimes will motivate those property managers. Now, we do have incentives for property managers as well. On average, we pay 50% of any upgrade to the unit shell that the owner would like to make. But again, they have been reluctant based on what we've seen.
Interesting. Thank you. So to capture, we're on the slide of benefits, burdens, equity. And we haven't heard from a couple, which I hate to call people out, but we haven't heard from, I just see your tag as energy efficiency, and then there's Maya Miller as well. And if you're here to just listen, that is completely fine, and then Maureen as well. What are you hearing, and are there anything that you can summarize from benefits, burdens, ensuring equity?
Actually, you heard from me already about the senior program, so.
Maureen, okay, thank you. So if we just summarize it was funny in the last breakout room, the benefits, it's, I think the people or the entities that benefit is maybe apparent, but the burden are left out. We want to make sure to capture, which I think we're hearing multifamily. How do we kind of keep going with understanding what is available for energy retrofits? How do we ensure equity? We've hit on some of that. What other, before we have about 13 minutes, which the last breakout room, I felt like we were going very fast. Are there things that we haven't hit on for energy efficiency that other people are aware of or would like to see for efficiency? I think we've kind of.
Should we call out? I have the hand up, but nobody's responding.
Right. Well, I'm sorry, because sometimes it's kind of left up too. Okay, go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm concerned about what Drawdown Solutions talked about. Refrigerant is number one problem. And I don't really understand all of that because I thought it was resolved, but obviously there are other problems that have come forth. I think we need a lot of education. For instance, I used to hate heat pumps because I was always cold at Christmas time in my brother's house. But I understand that heat pumps have really changed a lot, have really improved. I was very happy with my gas furnace being very stupid and unknowledgeable about what it was doing to the environment. And if people could do some comparisons about heat pumps and what's beneficial and how they're better than, the old heating procedures and that sort of thing. I think we need a lot of education about what's good and what's better and why they are and so forth, how they've changed.
Thank you. I don't know whether Jamie had her hand up again too, and I see Maureen's actual hand.
My actual hand.
Your actual hand. And then I'm bad at looking at the virtual hands. Jamie, did you have something to say?
I'm sorry, I was actually trying to lower my hand, but
I saw your hand left up, and I was like, okay, she's okay. Good. Thank you.
I will add this short comment.
Okay.
In the days that we're living in with extreme weather events and power outages, if persons don't have Generacs and generators, other type of generators, many are feeling more comfortable having an alternative fuel source, which used to be talked about all the time after we had Hurricane Sandy.
Right.
People were stuck because they only had one source. But when you think about, power outages and being out for weeks at a time, you feel as if you're more comfortable if you have a gas backup because, extreme cold weather, like the folks in Houston this past winter. And then, what folks are going through, if they had maybe an alternative heat source, maybe they would not have relied heavily upon electricity. However, Better Building Summit, this year and some of the other consequential webinars that they've had, it's really trying to encourage us, the benefit of going electric because it impacts all of the fuels. When you think about gas, there's a component of natural gas that's dependent upon electric. When you flush it all out to the core. So I think those are some of the concerns, and persons just want to make sure that they are ready, in a state of readiness. And, like the Girl Scout and the good Boy Scout, you're ready, you're prepared in the event of a power outage or a natural disaster, if you will.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And we did touch on that there was the renewable energy and energy storage. So a lot of these groups are overlapping, and you're hitting on going back to that resiliency of how do we plan and make sure that there's backup energy. And the efficiency part, Maureen, I want to make sure to get back to you, but the point that you made, Jamie, too, about preventative maintenance, and I don't know if there's any specific things that we can say about, people don't know about preventative maintenance and how that affects energy efficiency. If that's part of I don't know if that's part of the audits but
some of the companies now are getting a little slick in that they're not going to cover you for your extended warranty if you're not doing your preventative maintenance, cars and what have you. But some of the simple things like your refrigerator, when was the last time that you checked underneath it to see if there was any dust?
Yeah, the spoils, or you're not gonna. Yeah, no, I think about my dryer and things like that. So I think that's a really important thing. Maya, to capture that, I don't know how to, if that's in existing programs. So thank you. And Maureen, Maureen, what did you have?
So I know from BG&E, for example, I get an update on how I'm doing compared to my neighbors with my energy usage. And because I have had all of this work done to make my home more efficient, I do quite well. I'm always like, doing better than other, kind of conscientious people in the neighborhood. So, and then how many trees are saved by the amount of energy that one uses. So I think everybody benefits. It's like a win-win situation for the homeowner because you're saving money, and it's for your community and for the environment. So it's like there are so many different levels to it. And I don't see any of these components as being separate from one another, because there's efficiency, and then there's also your source of energy, what you're using, and what you plant in your yard. You're saving trees. The last one, the last breakout room that I went to was, most of the people were commenting on keeping our forests to help prevent flooding, to not destroy. Well, you can plant your yard to be, to sequester carbon and to keep your home cool. I mean, it's all part of the same thing,
Sure.
Everything rolls in together.
Right. Hi, John.
We just heard speakers talk about resiliency, energy efficiency, renewable energy. I do an awful lot of work in the transportation sector, and especially in Europe, they're talking about the hydrogen economy. The thing that I am flabbergasted is that, having worked as a DOE contractor in the 2 decades ago, when they were talking about fuel cell powered vehicles, well, if you're going to see fuel cells being economical, they should be first working in buildings. And when they're in buildings, they're providing both heating and electricity. So that's making them very efficient. But I don't see anything going on around here about looking at pilot programs on using fuel cells in say, residential buildings or commercial buildings. So you're maximizing the fuel source, which is normally, natural gas. That's where you're getting the hydrogen from, so that you're getting both thermal energy for heating water, for example, and electricity. That's very efficient. But I don't see anything going on around here.
Yeah. So that's so we've been mostly talking about buildings and houses and efficiency, but there's different efficiencies. David?
It's Will. I'm sorry. I was just going to say really quick to the last comment related to fuel cells. In our energy efficiency programs for our commercial customers, we do allow fuel cells now as a rebatable technology. We first started with CHP, combined heat and power, but we now have expanded that program to allow for more fuel cell technology. So if you have questions, I can talk to you further about it offline, but that is a newer technology that now our commercial buildings can take a part of. But like you said, it's still in its infancy, and not a lot of folks know about it and have taken advantage of it yet, based on cost effectiveness, but it is an option.
What is fuel cell energy?
Quickly, what's fuel cell energy?
It uses hydrogen to produce both heat and electricity. A lot of times the source of hydrogen is natural gas, although it can be splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen, but it's ultra efficient because it's capturing the heat energy, not only when you're making electricity, but it's capturing the heat energy. So it's very efficient. And that's what people were referring to, the hydrogen economy, a clean economy, but it hasn't come yet.
Not yet.
And I'm glad to hear that there are rebates for commercial. I look forward to seeing them come about in the residential sector. I mean, they're being used in residential heat pumps are very common in Japan now.
Right.
I'd love to see that come here in the United States.
Europe and the rest of the world has such amazing energy options. I want to make sure we hit David, and then Maya is doing a great job of moving us along. We have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, but David, you have some comments on what was said?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I'd like to bring up is the fact that we've spent probably about 95% of this conversation on residential, and the commercial side is something that's really important. We've got government buildings, we have schools, we have all kinds of commercial buildings that are really important because of the energy use in those buildings. And I think that's something that this plan should also be, there should be a big section on that in terms of the plan.
Good. Yeah, I was just kind of like realizing as we got to fuel cells and different types of energy efficiency, that's really forward thinking. Yeah, we've spent time on energy efficiency because that's sort of maybe what the homeowners and people in this group are thinking about, but I agree. What does it extend to? And again, what does this plan look like? So, you know, the county is doing different things for commercial, and Jamie she's a person that can comment on obviously some of the publicly owned facilities, and she's extremely knowledgeable on the forefront of what's going on there. So yeah, we don't want to lose that. What does success look like in the county in the next 3 to 5 years? So David, you just hit on the idea that it's not just residential, obviously, but so what for residential, is there, for the programs that, and we can go back to the programs, coming back to Anne, you spoke at the beginning, and Maureen spoke at the beginning about, and Maurice shared, they've done stuff. Maurice, I want to come back to you and say, are there things you've gone through the process? You're helping your mother through the process. Can you comment on what you hope success looks like?
I mean, just more people taking advantage of it, word of mouth or so, spreading the news to other seniors that, you know, this is working, and I don't know what else. Community centers, senior groups or so, just, you know, just getting the information out there.
Right.
Church also.
Trusted sources of communication.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's not, so even with the commercial government schools, it's just, we've talked about multifamily, we've talked about retirement communities, those types of multi-unit structures, making sure that that's factored in appropriately. And not only, even if what I've heard in the other groups, there's a lot of great things that are going on. You know, Commissioner Ellis has talked about all the programs, and the county is trying to be forward thinking. They're very engaged, and they just want to know, if people don't know what they're doing, how do they get that information to the community as well? And so we've heard churches, newspaper. In the last group, one of the women said, if I just got a letter from, you know, a government entity that I trust, it's different types of communication that really helps, because it was commented, I don't want a phone call because I get so many phone calls about things that are just spam. And so I think that communication piece is a tough nut to crack. So success, so for energy efficiency, what else are there? We've talked about benchmarking. Is that important to understand what benchmarking is for? Yes.
I think it's important, but it's also important to legislate and require owners of rental properties to do energy efficiency upgrades. This is a tough one because, you know, we want to be business friendly. And everybody wants people to profit, but we're going to have to legislate if we want owners of rental properties to do energy efficiency upgrades.
And I noticed when we were doing the poll at the beginning, that the business side, there are very few